Hello, boys and girls. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to VUX World. I am Kane Sims, and I am delighted to be bringing you another episode of VUX World. You know, we're back on track. Summertime saw us have a 3-week hiatus or so, but we're back up and running. And I realised the other day that this could be the longest running conversational AI podcast, because a lot of the others that seem to be around in 2018 seem to have disappeared. I'm not saying that they have disappeared, seem to have disappeared. So anyway, how exciting is that? We're still here, still going strong. And today we have another epic conversation. I'm going to introduce you in a second to Martin Musiol, who is the CEO of Generative AI.net. Martin has got some immense experience in the AI space. He's a data scientist by trade. He used to be the data science manager at IBM, and also a Gen AI lead for EMEA at Infosys. And so it's interesting to see some of these senior positions coming around now at these consultancies and organizations that have Gen AI in the title, which is, I think, a mark of how much it's advancing and how serious businesses are taking this technology. So without further ado, please, ladies and gentlemen, say hello to Martin. Martin, welcome to VUX World, my friend.
Having me. And thank you for the kind introduction.
It's a pleasure, absolute pleasure. Yeah, pleasure to have you along. Thank you for taking the time. I was just apologising before we kicked off because we've rearranged this a number of times. So thank you for bearing with us, and thanks for sharing your time.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think we both were busy, but I'm happy that we are meeting now.
Definitely, yeah. It's summertime and holidays come around, and different people are off, and different people are filling in, and it's all sort of crazy. So we ended up having a couple of weeks off in the end. But anyway, we're back now, and I'm glad to do this. So why don't we kick off by a bit of an introduction, Martin? Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into AI, and a little bit about what keeps you occupied?
Yeah. So thank you. You already did a great introduction. However, so the Gen AI lead for EMEA, that was I finished that job at the end of last year because I quit.
Right.
I wanted to do my own things. The pull was too strong. But you say a little bit about my background. So this pull is not coming out of nowhere. I started actually speaking about generative AI already in 2016. I was the first time on a conference in Milano. It was the Data-Driven Innovation Conference. And I had a conference presentation that was basically called Generative AI, how the new milestone in AI is improving the products we build. I was already in consulting. And it had a little local buzz, but of course there was no longevity to it, as there were no real applications, and ChatGPT was, I think, still more than 5 years away. However, I knew that it is a very exciting field, and I knew that I want to be in this field when this takes off. So 2017, I founded Generative AI.net. 2018, I launched the world's first online course on that topic. And last year, I published the book, or actually the publishing was this year, but I wrote it last year. I wrote the book, Generative AI, Navigating the Course to the AGI Future, because that's actually also one beautiful, like a nice trajectory where all of this is going, and where I'm also very interested in, which is AGI, artificial general intelligence, and the in-between steps, autonomous agents, AI agents, and the whole progression. I think, the journey is the exciting part of it.
Interesting. Here we have the book here, Generative AI, Navigating the Course to...
There it is.
The artificial intelligence, general artificial intelligence future, wicked. Do check it out. We'll put that link in the show notes afterwards. Do you think, though, Martin, that generative AI is the precursor to artificial general intelligence?
Yes, absolutely. Looking at the language models that we are working with already, or that we have already around, on the forefront, we have GPT-4o, we have Gemini, I think 1.5. By Google. We have Claude 3.5 Sonnet. We have Llama 3.1, 405 billion. Yeah, it's the strongest open source model. So there are many strong models, and we see that these models are getting better and better exponentially. Google DeepMind recently even released a math system, an AI math system that is as good in mathematics, because there was a sort of like the field where these models were not as good, or where traditionally language models have problems with. So they developed this AI math model that is on par with a gold medalist in the mathematics Olympics, mathematical Olympiad, IMO, International Mathematic Olympiad. Yeah, that's how it's called.
Mm-hmm.
And so basically the top 50 in the world trained the whole life to get into this level. And we have already AI models that are, or systems as a model, systems of multiple models already in that realm. And we see a very strong progression, improvement, and technological convergence of different capabilities adding up. Yeah, on the hardware as well as on the software layer.
It is a there's some things though about generative AI that perhaps make it challenging from a AGI perspective. I remember Peter Voss, who was actually one of the people that coined the term AGI. He was on the podcast probably, it was a long time ago now actually, and his kind of framework was that artificial general intelligence needs to be able to do, I think he said, 4 different things. One is reason. One is it learn? Let me just try and find this. Let me just try and dig it up. Reason, learn, deal with novel situation. Generative AI and large language models won't reach it. Hold on, is my microphone still working there? I think it is, isn't it?
Yeah, there was a hiccup for like 5 seconds, and I didn't hear the middle part.
Okay, I think it's for some reason the mic switched. So essentially, he was saying that large language models will struggle to meet AGI because of the fact that they can't do some fundamental things like deal with novelty and properly reason and those kind of things. And so I'll dig it up in a second. I'll try and find some more concrete examples of it. But do you concur with that? There is some fundamental issues with generative AI that may make it a challenge for that to advance into AGI.
Yes, absolutely. So one thing I can say is, for an understanding of the world, text is not enough. And also we now also add more modes to that. Yeah, we call it multimodal. Yeah. So we add the modes of images, videos, sound, and all of this. But at the core level, it's still mostly textual. And now, if a good analogy that I heard is when, for instance, someone lives, because it's about the understanding of the world. And if someone, for instance, has lived for 3 months in the jungle, yeah, crazy experience, and he explains everything to you, and you think you understand how that was, and you can empathize with that, it's still not the same as if you actually lived there. So on the textual level, you can extract exchange these informations, but it's not exactly the same. And this is sort of the problem to understanding the world, which goes along with reasoning. There is much more depth to it, but also the interaction with the world. Yeah, most or all language models had not have the luxury to interact with the world physically. This comes now also with another technical convergence that we have, and this is robots, humanoid robots. Yeah, which 2024 is the year where this also takes off. We have the Optimus Tesla robots. We have Figure. We have Astri Bot S1 from China, also very strong, and hands moving, and all kinds of things. So this is the year where this also takes off, and we see also lots of training of learning the actual world in a much deeper way, and the physical behavior and so forth. So I agree. Yeah, this is I'm not sure what else he's saying. You said learning also on the fly.
I'll share it with you actually, because I think I found it here. Here is a visual that we put together off the back of that podcast that we did. Let me just pull it up here. Where is it? I've got something else I can actually. Hold on now. I'll do this. Where has it gone? It's down here somewhere. Bear with me. My computer seems to be having a bit of a situation. Here it is. Okay, right. Let's do this. So let's do this. All right. Share this. Okay. So this was essentially the things that Peter mentioned as being the building blocks of cognitive systems. You've got the ability to reason. I think there's an argument to say that actually large language models and generative AI are beginning to develop that kind of ability based on the knowledge that they have. They can kind of reason, but whether they can do it sufficiently enough is, I suppose, a question. The ability to learn in real time. So that's obviously a bit of a problem because everything you send via an API to a large language model, every time you send another API call, it's going to forget what's just happened unless you send previous context to it. And that you can't really carry that over sessions and stuff like that. And so without kind of being able to affect the model itself, which I suppose you could do if you built it, but the people that use the models aren't the ones that build it, then there's a potential issue there. Memory, which I suppose is kind of the same. I suppose that's working memory, whereas learning is about building long-term learning things and then not forgetting them. And obviously, large language models have got catastrophic forgetting, actually, which is a pretty issue. And the other one, which he was really keen on when we spoke to him, was novelty. So dealing with novel situations that it hasn't come across before. Obviously, if it's dealing with data that's not in its training set, it doesn't have, as you were saying there, in terms of getting towards AGI, you need to have more worldly understanding, and some of that understanding might be the ability to take on visual information and sensory information, but also it's any information, I suppose, that it doesn't have. It can't really deal with brand new scenarios, I suppose. So that's not me saying this. I'm just kind of sharing the discussion that I had with Peter, just to sort of get your perspectives on it, basically.
I think there is a lot of truth to that. In fact, sorry, I cannot see myself while talking so well. So I also have a newsletter with roughly 45K subscribers, and I had one episode writing about the limits towards AGI, and persistent memory is so speaking to the memory piece, persistent memory, like on one hand. So on one hand, the analogy can only always be drawn to how humans behave. If you look even up to the deepest level of deep learning, it mimics the neurons that we have in our brain. And if we look at persistent memory, we have interacted. We know lots of things around us. But it is not. So I would distinguish between the learning piece, which is literally having more training data and learning the language models on it, and they have to adjust the weights. And then there's the persistent memory piece, which is sort of like an additional memory piece where you interact with that you have learned, you interact through the world as a language model, but you update your knowledge base. You update your knowledge base, you know who is who. This is a very fundamental piece to be able to interact and function in a society or in the world we live in. Reasoning, of course, and there was one more piece, novelty.
Dealing with novel situations that it hasn't encountered before.
Right. That's actually a good piece, because so we have on one hand these trained data, and what it is good is in mixing these ideas. A language model has trained on mixing ideas and creating sort of like novel things, but it's not really novel because it's sort of like an interpolation between ideas that can happen. With reinforcement learning, we also have taken in a little bit of more additional insights of how to provide value best. But really novelty, that's I think I assume we don't know, because we don't know exactly what the path to AGI is. Otherwise we would have been probably already there. But I assume that when we have persistent memory and that models have a clear understanding of their surrounding, they have sort of like a lifetime also, and have learned throughout that time and learned vastly on other data. Potentially, novelty could be something that comes out of that. emergent capabilities. So if you have, for instance, trained on a language model on just one language, it rudimentary also understands another language. You have trained only on English. In rudimentary terms, it has never seen, let's say, a Polish document, but it roughly understands and roughly can respond in Polish if you prompt it to. This is
I might be misunderstanding my understanding of emergent capabilities, but I thought emergent capabilities was essentially finding capabilities that you kind of didn't really know existed before, but they emerge as you explore. So, for example, there was that study that found that I can't remember if it was MIT that did a study which was looking at whether or not language models have theory of mind, which is essentially the ability for the person who you're speaking to kind of understand what it is that you're saying or getting at without explicitly being able to say it. We know sometimes when you might say to me, I know exactly what you're thinking, because you understand where I'm going, and because you have theory of mind, you can follow my thoughts without me actually expressing them. And they did a study that found that GPT 3.5 had the theory of mind of a 7-year-old or an 8-year-old. And then they thought, well, that's interesting. This was in like 2022 or whatever. They thought, well, why don't we go back and have a look at earlier models and have a look at see if that's got theory of mind. And so they did, and they found that actually even the very first GPT model, GPT-2 or whatever, had the theory of mind of a 3-year-old. And so it was like they found these properties that they had no idea existed. And because they've just now tried something new, they're discovering capabilities that it has that they didn't realize it had. Is that the same as what you're referring to in terms of emergent capabilities, or are you referring to something different?
Yeah. No, this is the same thing, because it's a class of many different capabilities. Emergent capabilities are all these capabilities, that they haven't been directly trained. It's just, the transformer architecture is basically training and updating its weights and biases based on all the training data and iterations. And then from all of that training data, it then is able to act like a 3-year-old, or act like a translator, act like a doctor, or be able to do basic math, even though it was not in the training data. So it's a combination of the size of the model, so the number of trainable parameters, and the size of the training data and the iterations over the training data. Sort of like this is the combination of these. And the larger the models are, the more emergent capabilities there are, or the stronger the model itself gets. And this is, I think, a very exciting field.
That's mad. And is that because it essentially just generalizes certain concepts and can apply that to something else?
Yeah, it's basically that. Yeah, it understands through these billions of trillions of tokens, not billions of trillions, but trillions of tokens, and we talk also billions of trainable parameters that are being updated. No one can deterministically say, okay, this is going to happen. Yeah, it's just so many parameters that it learns things that have to be discovered, basically. Like a toddler, learns things, and it has maybe seen something the parents do, and parents then later, they haven't recognized the learning itself, but they have recognized that the kid maybe does it at some point. It's like this, but a bit.
Yeah. So it's learning something as a byproduct of learning something else, type of thing. And, and presumably then that's the reason why the kind of media and general hype around generative AI is that some potential, or AGI probably more accurately, is that this thing will be able to uncover things like new cures for certain diseases and things like that we can't think of yet. And presumably that's because we're kind of giving it the answers in part, but our brains can't basically make the connections between trillions of bits of data, basically.
We cannot comprehend. We don't. Maybe there are some tiny pieces somewhere in a completely unrelated field, that might help 1% to the overall solution for curing certain diseases or increasing longevity, and or other things. It's maybe also solving poverty to a degree, or I don't know. There are so many things. So of course we're in a theoretical field here, and there's then also the field of artificial superintelligence, which is then AGI, next version of AGI, yeah, and will solve all kinds of crazy things. But even like going a bit, like stepping back a bit, AI is already super, super powerful, and most companies don't know it. I'm in the consulting business. I'm speaking to lots of executives. Yeah, next week I'm flying to the US, speaking to 2 days, only 2 executives, and we start from zero basically. Yeah, and so what is theoretically possible, or what is practically already possible, and what is being used in reality in industry and so forth, there is a huge gap, I must say.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean,
Yeah.
to be fair though, I mean, one of the questions I was thinking of as we've been having this discussion is like, what is the why is there such a race to AGI in the first place? Like, if I go back to this Peter Voss article, and if I just read what the alleged definition is, at least according to Peter, is a computer system that can learn incrementally in real time by itself to reliably perform any cognitive task that a competent human can, including the discovery of new knowledge and solving problems. That seems fair enough. And I suppose there is a larger global interest, I suppose, in having something like that. However, you mentioned there how early businesses are in the adoption of this stuff, and that's not even to go into other forms of AI and more traditional machine learning technologies, because just because we have generative AI now doesn't mean that you throw the baby out with the bathwater, and all of the machine learning solutions that are possible or in play are then dead. There's all kinds of stuff that can be solved with existing technology that generative AI can help. And so and when you think about the areas in which AI is being used effectively, especially when you apply it to a business context, it's in very narrow areas, isn't it? Sentiment analysis, call summarization, intent classification. It's like these really sort of narrow use cases where it works pretty well. Generative AI can help, but traditional machine learning works really, really well. So I suppose the question is, I don't know if you have an opinion on, like, why is there that broader global race for AGI when there are so many problems that arguably can be solved today with the existing technologies as they are?
Sorry, there was a little hiccup. Can you say again what?
So I was saying, essentially, we have decent technology today. Generative AI is decent enough for certain use cases. Large language models, in terms of their understanding capability as well as their generative capability, are good enough for a number of use cases. But also traditional machine learning systems, like the more intent-based classification models and various other sentiment analysis and things like that, speech to text, there's all of these traditional machine learning models that actually perform really well for specific cases that businesses still aren't using. And so the question is whether you have an opinion on why is there such a, at the top of the food chain, at the Google level and at the OpenAI level, why there is this huge race for AGI when there is so much value that can be unlocked today with the technology that we have today if it's applied in the right kind of way.
Yeah. So yeah, it's true. There's so much that can be done right now. Yeah, I'm talking to one client about how to completely automate calls with clients that would be solved with like small language models where clients can call. It's a company that is an internet company. And the clients call and they say, oh, I have changed my address and I would like to change it. Humans are involved in this. Language models today small language models when it comes to calls because of latency issues, and but also large language models are getting faster and faster, especially with the hardware that we have. So there is, this can be automated with AI to a large degree. Or especially when it also comes to knowledge exploration, or knowledge. If you want to converse with a large knowledge base, for instance, last year, a quick anecdote from last year, I I was in the lead for implementing a system for a large international container shipping company. And so their clients write up to 1 million emails every year. The emails typically involve, hey, I have this goods, let's say used cars, and I want to ship them from, let's say, China to another country, Australia. And so what are the regulations about China? What are the regulations in Australia? What are for used cars? What are the overarching regulations? And so a human before that would go, the internal representative would go now through all the databases, copy and paste, Control F, and try to find the right snippets, put it all together, write it up, cross-read it, send it out. Yeah, that can take up to 4 hours. And we have built an AI system that literally takes the email, translates on the fly, extracts the intent of that question on the fly, posts it against the language model through a RAG system, retrieval augmented generation system, extracts the relevant pieces, asks the language model to phrase it. The internal employee is then only cross-reading, clicking send. It's a liability question, yeah, and sending it out. And from 4 hours, we have a task now that is done in 2 minutes, maybe 1.5, maybe 1 to 2 minutes, and is a huge enabler for this specific company. Yeah, that has now much more resources to take care of other things. Yeah, and be maybe more active about business rather than reactive to emails. So, and I think these are one of many stories that we are writing already today. Yeah. But yeah, I think there's that many companies are like, yeah, taking it a little bit slow. They're a bit conservative. I also know I'm in Germany here, and in Germany these things are even more seen are taken more cautiously in general.
Yeah, I mean, having said that, I mean, when I was in Germany in February for a conference, and I was surprised at the level of maturity that I saw from the companies there. I was hearing from Toyota, Schwarz Group, who else was there? Adidas was there, Alliance Insurance was there, and what I've been talking about for a long time. We talk a lot about AI's position in customer experience. As wherever a customer meets a business, whatever those channels are, whatever that environment is, AI can mediate 99% of all of them interactions, essentially. And a lot of the time, businesses have a big influx from customers in a channel that is suboptimal. You mentioned that email use case there. And email is the worst possible channel to get that kind of response from, isn't it? Because I'm going to go from this place to that place. Can you tell me this? And it's like receiving a letter through the post. It's just the worst channel possible. And so we've been talking a lot about it on this show, which is that first and foremost, the most basic use of AI, which is still a valuable use of AI, is to use it across all of your channels to understand what it is people are actually trying to get done. And then just to push them into the place where they can get it done the most effective way possible. So if that use case that you shared just then, if you have a website that's got all the legislations and you can just search for something where you can find the relevant legislations, you don't need to send the email, or the email response could be just go to that website. Now, the solution you've built is obviously a much better solution and a more elegant solution. But as a first port of call, just to put something in place that at least just shepherds people into the right environments to give them a better chance of solving their issue first, that seems to be a good place to start. And when I went to that conference in Germany, that was 90% of the use cases that were shared by all of these companies. It was like, we've got good journeys online, but people are calling our contact center trying to do the stuff that they can already do online. So all we need to do is understand that. Now that we know what you're trying to do, just go online here. I'll send you a text message and just do it online. You don't need to speak to someone. And so it was like, maybe that is a cautious way of doing things, perhaps, or a risk-averse way of doing things. But it's actually, as you're starting out, it's probably the right way to do it. You're still leveraging AI, but you don't have to boil the ocean with it. You can just, use it to shift traffic around and demonstrate some value,
Yeah, exactly. Yes. First effective step. There is, however, also like a little bit of a generational problem. Yeah, the older generation, they want to talk to people. I know the younger generation prefer actually the more time effective, cost effective way of interacting with the right whatever entity and getting things done, because they don't want to talk to people in general. Or I'm not saying everyone, but like roughly. But I agree.
Yeah, it's weird that though, isn't it? Because the younger generation that apparently don't want to talk to people, which is true. There's a lot of data out there that suggests that some people under the age of 25 have never even made a phone call or something strange like that. But so there's something to that. However, that generation are perfectly accustomed to texting, and normally with a text, you might not get a response straight away. And there's a lot of companies who've moved to that more sort of asynchronous way of doing things, where if someone calls, they'll push them into a channel which is more asynchronous. And sometimes they've got people handling those asynchronous channels, which means that the wait time for getting a response could be up to hours. So it's strange to me how, a certain group of the population, they don't want to call and speak to somebody, but they're kind of perfectly happy to wait 2 hours for a response to a text. It's weird.
That's weird. I also have hard times understanding this. However, with AI, this answer might come directly via text, if implemented.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely. Yeah. That's good. So what got you into the education side of things? Then you're consulting with a lot of companies. You're doing a lot of work. Like you saw generative AI kind of coming. Why did you think about the whole online courses and education piece?
So I think so. I said that there is like a big difference between what is already possible and what is actually being done. I see also there are plenty of online courses. I see that. Mostly like prompt engineering courses and a couple of other courses. I also have done a couple, but one thing that has gone very strongly under the radar is that the barriers of actually developing things yourself as a non-technical person, non-coder, these barriers are falling. They're falling fast. You can use Claude AI already today. Ask it in a certain way. You ask it in a certain way to build something for you, and you then copy and paste it, and it guides. You ask it to guide you to build it. If you do that in the right way, you can build anything. So I'm now, because I started with that space and I started building things, I realized, wow, this is super interesting. So I have built a Chrome extension. I have built a web app, put it online, accessible for everyone. I have built a mobile app, iOS app, an AI solution. Even though I'm a technical person by training, and I've done AI solutions quite a lot, but I purposefully asked the AI, Claude especially, to build that for me, because there's like this project way of doing things, and I think there are no limits anymore. Like I never built, just a couple of days ago, I have never done an iOS app in my life. I'm not a mobile app developer, but I have asked Claude, hey, I have developed like a certain framework that I'm also training in a training course. Framework is called AIDE, AIDE, where you first ask it to ask you questions, and then it, through a certain step, it then guides you to do it. And I have never done Xcode and everything you need. And literally 35 minutes later, I had a functioning app. And then there is also a way then, okay, you have the existing software. I want to now implement this and that feature, and it guides you to do this. And then you want to say, hey, but I want to have it on the App Store, and it guides you to do this. Yeah, it is incredible how it. So guiding, when I say guiding, I mean it tells you what to do, what files to create, what program to open, and then it codes the code for you. It says copy and paste it in, and you click play and it works. And even if it doesn't work, you can say, hey, these are my errors. What is wrong? And then apologies, and it builds the solid code for you. This is already possible today. I think in the future, of course, this is the this is the weakest that we have looking forward. In the future, it will be even easier. We will just express things. We have a clear train of thought, and we can build whatever we want. Yeah, very exciting times. And so last thing I would like to add to this is I have built an online course for that, where for non-technical people, the batch starts actually tomorrow on Monday, the first batch, and it's a roughly a 10-step course. And the beauty of this course is also that there will be office hours with me where I go through your projects, because there will be homework to build own software, and I'm then also supporting on building that software, because I'm just super excited about it. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure it will make our lives better.
Oh yeah, I'm 100% sure it'll make our lives better, without a doubt. I suppose the question, I suppose, is in those instances where it's building an app, because we've been, I can't code either, but a lot of our coders who've been using these tools, there is often the case where something won't work and you've got to send it back to ChatGPT or whatever, and you'll say, this isn't working, why not? And it'll say, oh yeah, that's because of this. And it's like, well, it's interesting how it created the error, but it also spots its own error. Like, why didn't it just get it right in the first place? So I think there's things like that where it'll get better over time. There'll be less errors and stuff over time. And I can imagine a world where, as different pieces of infrastructure become made available, there's no reason why the code that Claude or ChatGPT generates couldn't just be put into a GitHub repository, and then you could automate the deployment of that. And it's kind of like, there are ways that you can see into the future where the creation of the code, the deployment of the code, the management of it could all essentially just be kind of running. And I saw a video the other week where, I can't remember who it was now, it was somebody saying that if you think about the future and where this could potentially go, America currently is trying to ban TikTok, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And for whatever reason. And the example that this person gave was, imagine you could just go to your AI system and tell it the reasons why TikTok is being banned, and then just ask it to create its own version of TikTok that doesn't fall foul to these things, and then launch it, deploy it, see if it works. And if it doesn't, ask it to analyze why, and then create another version of it and deploy that and see if that fits. And then all of a sudden you're in this world where the AI system is creating applications, launching applications, testing and validating, iterating on what's working and what's not working, and then redeploying, and et cetera, et cetera. And so, but the question that when I get to is like, if we can't answer questions correctly without hallucinations, and there's people who are saying that there's no way really of those hallucinations ever disappearing because of the fundamental statistical nature of the models themselves, then are we ever going to get to that kind of place, or are we forever going to be stuck in this kind of almost situation,
Yeah, that's hard to say. By the way, I posted a little snippet from Eric Schmidt, the CEO. He's talking to, what if everyone is able to develop things. I'm not sure if you can show it now,
that might be the
or
one. Yeah,
in
yeah.
the show notes.
Let me have a quick look. Hold on. I think this
I
might
think
be the exact video.
Could be that you're talking.
Yeah, let me just pull it up. I think this is it actually. Yeah, Eric Schmidt. Let me see if I can get the sound working on this. Do I get the sound working on this? People can see that I can't.
That's it.
Yeah, this is it. I can't get the sound. Oh no, the sound. No, the sound's not going to work. But this is exactly what it is. This is the exact video I'm talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's basically saying like, yeah, this is what happens.
He puts it perfectly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, he's actually exactly mentioning that in this snippet. You're right. Yeah, it's super exciting, and you can repeat things that exist already. You can, in my online course, I'm also talking about like, hey, you can now build features in short hours rather than weeks. When you have, for instance, a certain feature and you have 3 different versions of it, just build them, all of them, test them against the ABC testing, and just get real strong quality signals for what is best for that specific application, and go with that. And next, it's going to be a hyper fast iteration of products in the future, and This is something that highly excites me. Sam Altman at some point said there might be also a billionaire solopreneur at some point. I wouldn't understand why that wouldn't be the case if you can just build really big products yourself.
Well, one of the ways in which people become billionaires is they have a whole army of people doing all kinds of jobs for them. Whereas if you can replace those jobs with AI, and AI is doing those jobs effectively, then you just use AI instead. I can kind of see that happening, but again, it's kind of like I don't know whether there's some fundamentals with the technology that would prevent that from happening in an accurate kind of fashion. I think that the signs I'm seeing, at least, is that there's always going to need someone to check that code, always going to need someone to tell it what app to build, and so it seems to me as though the more AI agents you have doing different jobs, the more people you need to make sure that there's alignment and it's working well. And for some reason, I can't really see past that, which might be a bit of a short-term thinking type of thing, because in 25, 30, 50 years' time, that might be a totally different story. I just find it hard to understand right now, with the limitations of the fundamental statistical nature of the models, a world in which we can just let them fire off and run their own things and not have to touch them,
When I imagine this, I see something like you have one, chief of staff AI that sort of tells you, hey, today we have tested on the front end part this, some database this, then on marketing we have tested these 5 versions. Of course, always like different AI agents that have performed that. These are the results. We recommend to go with this and that. I just need your go for each of the different strategies, and we go ahead and implement it. Yeah, like I don't know, like it's going to be very exciting, I think.
Oh, definitely. It'd be amazing. Absolutely. Martin, thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'm assuming that people can go to generativai.net and get everything they need to from you, your courses, your book, all that kind of stuff is all there, yeah?
Correct. Everything is there. generativai.net.
Perfect. Wicked. Thank you so much, Martin. It's been an absolute pleasure.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Absolute pleasure, as always. And I'll see you again next week, next Thursday. Same bat time, same bat channel. See you there. Bye now.